Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Peacock Cosmic Arc. This watch is available from peacockwatches.com for $1,899 which is €1,618 respectively. Peacock have a rich brand heritage. They were founded in 1957 in Dandong in China. In addition to making watches, Peacock are well respected as a movement maker. So, the Cosmic Arc is available in 4 colour options: Verdant Orbit, Stellar Ice, Celestial Clay and Rose Dawn respectively. Of the 4 colour options, I think this Verdant Orbit version is the best looking. The thing to note is the Verdant Orbit is the only one of the 4 colour options that is a numbered limited edition of only 80 pieces. Each of the numbered limited edition Verdant Orbit pieces have unique numbers engraved into the exhibition caseback. This one is number 1 of 80. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a solid wooden watch box, which is housed inside this outer cardboard box. So one removes the lid to the outer cardboard box, which is a snug fit. Pulls down the flap, and you can see the inner solid wooden watch box is protected in shipping by a piece of foam, which is good. So I'll take it out and show it to you. So this is the solid wooden watch box itself. As you can see, dark green, piano lacquered finish, nice high gloss finish to the piano lacquering, stainless steel hardware, good attention to detail because the base is lined with a liner, and this prevents the watch box sliding around on a polished desktop or tabletop, and also prevents the watch box from scuffing or scratching a polished or lacquered desktop. On the top of the hinge lid, we have an inlaid plate, and the plate is made from brushed satin finished aluminium, and as you can see, high definition printing of a diagram of a Peacock caliber. This one is a tourbillon, and as I've detailed, in addition to making watches, Peacock have been making movements in Dandong in China since 1957. They are a respected movement maker, and it's very impressive they are capable of making tourbillon calibers in-house. We also have the Peacock emblem and Peacock logo, both in English and Mandarin. Hinge lid is spring loaded, and the interior of the solid wooden watch box is upholstered with a lighter green contrasting velour fabric. Underside is also signed with a Peacock emblem and logo. Base is fully upholstered with green velour fabric to a good standard, and there's a cutout in the base. And the watch sits on this padded pillow cushion, which is also velour fabric upholstered to a good standard. Nice snug fit in the base. Also good attention to detail because there are 2 tabs on the left and the right hand flanks, and you can get good purchase with your index finger and thumb on the 2 tabs on the left and the right hand flanks, and this facilitates withdrawing this compartment, as you can see. And they've also lined the base of it, which is good attention to detail. Very good finishing. The interior of the watch box is fully lined with green velour fabric to a very high standard, and in the base you can see there's a cutout, and that gives space for this, which is a fabric envelope. Flawless stitching around the perimeter. It's also signed with a Peacock emblem and Peacock logo, stainless steel popper, and inside it houses 2 items which I'll take out and show you. We have the plastic warranty card. Now I'm pleased to report that this Cosmic Arc Verdant Orbit version is covered by a 2-year international warranty. I want to give due credit to Peacock here because often mid-tier Chinese brands only cover their watches with a 12-month international warranty. To get 2 years of international warranty is very good, and they deserve full credit for that. On the reverse it's blank, but of course if you purchase it from peacockwatch.com, they will fill it in with the official retailer, model number and date of purchase, and that will activate the 2-year international warranty from the date of purchase. One also gets this item, which is the owner's instruction manual. Clear, concise diagrams. The instructions are in English, and it's also bilingual. It's translated into Mandarin, and it details the operation of the movement used, which is the Siegel Caliber PAX 6910 automatic. Excellent quality owner's instruction manual, and I think they've done a very good job of it. So, good presentation. To put this into perspective, this really is Rolex, Tudor or Omega level presentation. This is the kind of solid wooden watch box and the upholstery to the interior one would expect with a high tier piece costing €10,000+. To see this in the mid tier at the €1,618 price point is very impressive, and a credit to Peacock. So, with regards to the specifications of the piece, the first thing I want to make you aware of is Peacock have entered this piece into the GPHG Awards. GPHD stands for Grand Prix d'Horlogerie de Genève, and they are very prestigious Swiss watchmaking awards. They celebrate watchmaking excellence, and although it's primarily Swiss brands that enter GPHG Awards, they are also open to Chinese brands. So, for example, Sega Design were the first Chinese watch brand to win the GPHG Challenge Award for their Blue Planet piece, which I previously reviewed. And that was an incredible achievement for a Chinese watch brand to attain. This Challenger Award was competing with the very best of Swiss brands in the watchmaking industry, and Sega Design won it with the Blue Planet. So Peacock are clearly very proud of this piece, the Cosmic Arc, because they have also entered the 2025 GPHG Awards, and I wish them the best of success with that. So with regards to the specifications, we have a 38.5mm case diameter. We have a 45.4mm lug-to-lug measurement, a thickness of 9.6mm, and a lug width of 19mm. Now, this may come as a surprise to you because 19 is an odd lug width. It was a popular lug width in the 1970s, and purist Peacock collectors will appreciate this because originally in the 1970s, Peacock also used 19mm, and it was popular. But, however, I'm going to be critical of it because subjectively, in 2025, the modern day industry standards are 18mm or alternatively 20mm for a 38.5 head of the piece. I think they should have updated this to contemporary standards, the industry standard of an 18 or 20, because 19 straps are not as popular, and therefore that does limit the strap options if you want to exchange this Novo Napa calf leather strap for an alternative. It is a very aesthetically pleasing calf leather strap, but 19 will limit your options because of course the majority of straps are 18 or 20 versus the 1970s dimension of 19. But there we are. Strap tapers from the head of the piece at 19 down to the buckle and tang. Now, it may come as a surprise to you, this buckle and tang is not made from solid 316L grade stainless steel, as one would expect. It's signed, as you can see, with Mandarin, but it's made from solid 904L stainless steel. 904L is used by Rolex. Rolex call it oyster steel, as you know. And, of course, in terms of corrosion resistance, 904L is similar to 316L. In terms of aesthetics, there's no discernible difference. They both have a very similar luster, but of course 904L is more expensive. The only real difference technically is the 904L has a different carbon content to 316L, but nonetheless, Peacock deserve credit for using the more expensive option of 904L versus 316L as per Rolex. So, to clarify, the bezel, the case, the exhibition caseback, and even the buckle and tang are entirely made from 904L stainless steel. We have a box top hat double dome sapphire crystal, which is 2mm thick. This gives the piece a vintage aesthetic, rather like a Peacock piece made in the 1970s, but of course one has the benefit of AR coating. The clear AR coating on the underside of the box top hat double dome sapphire crystal does an excellent job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the silver mirror polished Dolphin handset, and also the gilt Arabic numerals. So, the dial is one of my favourite aspects of the piece. It is incredibly detailed. The dial is made from solid brass, and then it's painted with vertical satin finish green, which is very aesthetically pleasing. And as I've detailed, there are 4 colour options, but this Verdant Orbit, which is the green version, is my personal favourite of the Cosmic Arc. So what they do is the dial is solid brass, it's painted, and then they engrave it with Arabic numerals. Now, the thing to note is they haven't taken the default option of using Breguet numerals. Often Chinese brands, both low-tier pieces and also high-tier pieces and mid-tier pieces, they use Breguet numerals, which are very aesthetically pleasing. But Peacock have created custom Arabic numerals. So the fonts used is original to Peacock. They haven't copied the fonts from other brands such as Breguet. These numerals are a custom font, Arabic numeral, which is inspired by Zankey engraving. And you can see the Zankey engraving, which is the inspiration, has this Chinese character style to the Arabic numerals. And the quality of the engraving into the brass is high definition and crisp. The font isn't too thick and blurry, it's very sharp, and the mirror polishing of the engraving is done to perfection. To put this into perspective, the engraving into the brass is high tier level. So to remind you, mid tier is 500 to 5,000 euro price point, high tier is 10,000 plus. What we're looking at in terms of dial execution, and I'm talking about the engraving specifically of the custom font of Arabic numerals, this is high tier level engraving, high tier level polishing to the engraving. They deserve full credit for this. Quality of the printing to the minute ticks on the chaptering is high definition. Peacock and 1957 have a nice fine font. It's not too thick, not too blurry. Just bear with me, I'll move the Dolphin minute hand out of the way. And then you'll see at the 6 o'clock position we also have Mandarin on the dial. Quality of the printing on the dial throughout is excellent. This is high definition, it's sharp, it's crisp, and my favourite aspect is the metallic finish or the sheen of the green dial. And this is the Verdant Orbit version, which is the only of the 4 colour options, which is a limited edition, one of 80 pieces. Very aesthetically pleasing. I like the way the metallic finish of the green dial changes, and it contrasts very well with the engraved gilt Arabic numerals. Now, with regards to the hands, they're Dolphin hands, and they are finished to a very high standard. To put the finishing into perspective, these Dolphin hands are finished to a similar level to Grand Seiko Dolphin hands. So they have 5 facets to the hour hand and 5 facets to the minute hand. They're not flat Dolphin hands. They take 100 cuts to produce the 5 facets on the hour and minute hand, and then they are mirror polished to flawless standards. They really are Grand Seiko level finished, correctly proportioned. Often low tier and mid tier Chinese brands have a tendency to undersize the handsets they're using for the diameter of the dial. But you can see the Dolphin minute hand, the tip of it extends all the way to the minute ticks on the chapter ring. It's long enough, it's wide enough. Also the Dolphin hour hand, which also has 5 facets, extends all the way to the engraved Arabic numerals. The handset is correctly proportioned. Now, this piece also features a unique aspect, and you can see it has a curved second hand. The curved second hand is known as an airplane second hand. Originally, the airplane second hand was used on the Hongqi watch. Hongqi watches were made in the 1970s by Peacock. So effectively, this takes its inspiration from an iconic Peacock watch, the Hongqi watch from 1970s. It had a similar curved second hand. But this curved second hand is not made from brass. Often brass or alternatively gold are used for the hand material. This second hand is made from titanium and it's blued. Now, to clarify, often low-tier and mid-tier Chinese brands will blue the second hand simply by anodizing it or alternatively painting the hand to make it look heat-treated. But it's not actually heat-treated. They blued the hands simply by painting or anodizing it. Peacock don't do that. So, to explain, with stainless steel, in order to blue it with heat treatment, you need to heat up stainless steel to the temperature of 300 degrees Celsius, and then the silver changes to a blue tone. This second hand, which is an airplane second hand, has been heated to 550 to 600 degrees Celsius, so higher than the 300 degrees required with stainless steel. Because in order to blue titanium into blue and violet like this, one has to heat it up to 550 to 600. This is more difficult because there's a risk of distortion. For example, you can warp the second hand. With stainless steel, it's lower risk because when you heat up stainless steel to 300 degrees, it doesn't tend to warp and distort as much, and therefore it cools back down and it's blued very easily. Titanium is much more technically difficult to blue with heat treatments because of the higher temperature, 550 to 600 degrees. If you heat it up too much, it melts, and of course the other problem is it warps and distorts. So it's difficult to keep the second hand flat when you're heating it to 550 to 600 degrees to develop this blued heat treatment. But you can see it's very aesthetically pleasing because when I tilt the piece at an oblique angle, it changes from a violet to a blue tone, and then the tip of it is red, and it's lumed with a lume that glows orange in the dark, which I'll demonstrate in the Lume Test. So, the curvature of the second hand, as I've detailed, the airplane second hand, is inspired by the original Hongqi watch made in the 1970s. And the curvature was inspired by the arc of departure. The arc of departure refers to a rocket's trajectory when it's leaving planet Earth and therefore leaving planet Earth's gravitational pull. And of course, that is the curvature or the arc of departure that a rocket flies in. It flies in a curve rather than a straight line, which is known as the arc of departure. So originally on the Hongqi watch from 1970s, it also featured a similar airplane second hand with the arc of departure, a rocket's trajectory leaving the Earth's gravitational field, and this piece, the cosmic arc, and that's where the name comes from, cosmic arc, because of the curvature of the second hand, the arc of departure. So that's the reasoning behind it. The blue heat treatment of the titanium is very aesthetically pleasing and they deserve full credit for it. It's finished to perfection, proportions are correct, and the red tip of it does give a nod to the heritage of the Hongqi watch, which was made in the 1970s, although that had a red rocket on it versus the red triangle of this piece. Very aesthetically pleasing, a unique aspect to this piece. It's the first time I've seen an airplane curved second hand used on the piece. So as I've detailed, The bezel, case and caseback and the crown are not made from 316L grade stainless steel as one would expect. This piece is entirely made from 904L stainless steel, which is the same as the 904L steel that Rolex use, and they call it oyster steel. Mirror polishing to the flat bezel is done to perfection. Brush satin finishing, which is longitudinal on the flanks, is done to perfection. Nice fine grained satin finish. Flawless mirror polishing to the tops of the angular lugs. In between the lugs has contrasting vertical brush satin finishing, which is also done to perfection. Tips of the angular lugs have mirror polished bevels, no sharp edges, no sharp corners, nice crisp edges which mark the transition between the top of the mirror polished angular lugs and the flanks. The profiling of the angular lugs are called bugle horn lugs due to the bugle horn shape of them, and they are finished to a very high standard. Nice large bevel on the undercuts to the flanks of the satin finished flanks, and that deletes the sharp edges to the undercuts to the flanks. One thing I like about it is this piece is low profile. It's only 9.6mm. Now, if this piece were 9.6mm with a quartz movement or alternatively mechanical manual wind movement, I would say that's nothing impressive, because below 10mm is to be expected with a manual wind or quartz powered piece. But this is an automatic with a rotor, and it does have a boxed top hat double dome sapphire crystal which adds 2mm of thickness to the head of the piece. Also has an exhibition caseback which adds some thickness versus a solid stainless steel caseback. So I would expect this to be 10mm plus, bearing in mind it's automatic versus quartz or manual wind. 9.6 is very slender. The other thing I like about it is very aesthetically pleasing, because the flanks to the head of the piece, which are 904L stainless steel, they're very low profile. They're not too thick, it's not too slab-sided, and you can see the curvature of the angular lugs is very good. The undercut has a nice curved profile to it, and it feels very low profile. Looks thin, also feels thin on wrist, and 38.5 is a nice size. It gives wrist presence, but it's suitable for 6 to 7 inch wrists and 7 to 8 inch wrists respectively. So let's look at the strap in detail. The strap is made from Novo Nappa calf leather. So to put Novo Nappa calf leather into perspective, it is equal quality to the very best of Hirsch calf leather straps made in Austria, alternatively Horween shell cordovan straps, which are tanned in Chicago in America. Quality of the Novo Nappa leather is very soft and supple. It is a padded leather strap, so it's thicker at the spring bar end, and then it tapers down in thickness down to the buckle and tang. Also tapers down from the odd 90mm width down to the buckle and tang. Contrasting white stitching is flawless, no loose stitches. Nice matte finish to it, nice grained finish. It's not glossy as per a dress piece. This does suit a daily wear piece. But the point is, it's very soft and supple, rather like Horween shell cordovan or calf leather used by Hirsch in Austria. It's got that kind of soft, supple feeling to the calf leather. Novo Nappa leather is very soft and supple, and also very aesthetically pleasing because it has this lovely grained finish to it rather than an alligator leather finish to it. Buckle and tang is correctly proportioned. Two keepers, first one's fixed, second one slides as one would expect. Let's look at the underside. Underside has a contrasting tan tone to the liner, and it's embossed with genuine leather. Flawless stitching around the perimeter. And I'm pleased to see quick release stainless steel spring bars versus standard stainless steel spring bars. That negates the need for a spring bar tool, which is particularly beneficial because often with thick padded straps it can be difficult to compress the edge of the strap in between the lugs without slipping off the spring bar and scuffing and scratching the mirror polished tips of the bugle horn lugs. So, quick release spring bars are the correct choice. On the other side, it's embossed with Peacock to a good standard, and you can see it's very well finished. It's a high quality leather strap, and it is appropriate for this price point. Exhibition caseback is glazed with sapphire crystal, and I want to give credit to Peacock here because often low tier and mid tier Chinese brands use the production cost cutting measure of mineral crystal glazing versus sapphire crystal. Strictly speaking, one doesn't need sapphire crystal in the exhibition caseback because unlike the front of the piece, it's not an area that's prone to being scuffed and scratched with daily wear and tear because it's just rubbing against the wrist. But however, sapphire crystal is the best specification. What I like about it is it's very low profile and flat. It provides an effective hermetic seal to 50 metres, which is perfectly acceptable for a daily wear piece, and they deserve credit because they could have just used a pressed on stainless steel caseback to reduce production costs, and they could have alternatively used a pressed on caseback glazed with mineral crystal. It's a screwed down caseback. 50 metres of hermetic seal is good. Concentric CNC lathe tool machining to the stainless steel portion, and the circumference is mirror polished to a flawless standard. The milled slots are deburred and chamfered very well, no sharp edges to the milled slots. The circumference is engraved with the specification of the piece, and you can see it's also engraved with limited edition 1 of 80, because as I've detailed, of the 4 colour options, this Verdant Orbit version, which is the green version, is the only limited edition of the 4 versions. They are only producing 80 of these in Verdant Orbit, the green version. This is number 1 of 80. So engraving is high definition, and we've also got the coordinates of Peacock watches in Dandong in China. So very nicely engraved. The font is clearly legible, it's sharp and crisp, but it doesn't feel rough. It's been deburred and chamfered very well. Caseback is nice and low profile for an automatic. This is the kind of flat profile caseback one would expect with a quartz powered or mechanical manual wind powered piece. It's very thin. It's one of the thinnest screw down casebacks I have seen on an automatic. Minimal clearance between the rotor, which is skeletonized in gilt, and the decorated caliber, which is the Peacock caliber PAX 6910 automatic. Right, so let's test the pushable crown execution. Just bear with me, I'll do up the Novo Nappa genuine leather strap, and we'll test the pushable crown execution. Coin edge finished, solid 904L stainless steel, as I've detailed. Even the crown is 904L, it's not 316L as one would expect. Nice large chamfer which deletes the sharp tips of the coin edge teeth. Mirror polished domed cap. Now it's sterile. Normally I'd be critical of a mid-tier piece at this price point having a sterile unsigned crown, but however, one has to appreciate that Peacock is a large text logo, and it would be difficult for Peacock to engrave or emboss Peacock in high definition engraving or embossing on a small diameter crown like this and make it look high definition. So I think at this diameter it is acceptable to have a sterile unsigned crown. Of course, they could engrave or emboss a P for Peacock, but they don't use the P as a brand emblem. So I think in this case, it is acceptable for it to be sterile. Of course, it would look more aesthetically pleasing if it had Peacock on it, but I think it would be too difficult to engrave or emboss it with a diameter. Diameter is good. It's large enough to be grippy and tactile. You can get good purchase with your index finger and thumb. The coin edge teeth are grippy, but it's not too large. So when you flex the wrist, the crown doesn't dig into the back of the hand. That's the point. So proportions look good for 38.5mm head of the piece. So as it's a pushable crown versus a screw down crown, in the closed position, one can manually wind the Peacock caliber PAX 6910 automatic, which is an in-house caliber made by Peacock in Dandong in China, to its maximum 38-hour power reserve. One can feel the tension in the mainspring gradually building up. It feels smooth to manually wind. So in terms of how it feels similar to manually winding a Sellita caliber SW200-1 or an ETA 2824-2, alternatively a Miyota 9015. It's got that fine, smooth feeling, doesn't feel rough or gritty. One can feel the tension in the mainspring gradually building up. Feels smooth, I like it. Putting it out to the first click position is the quick set date complication. So if you look at the keyhole shape framing around the date complication, you can see rotating the crown clockwise advances the quick set complication. It clicks over with a nice positive click. Proportions of the keyhole framing of the date complication are correct. It doesn't have a deep shadow around the date complication. Both the single and the double Arabic numerals align correctly in the date window. They're not too high or too low. They're not too far to the left or the right. And although it does have a deep brass dial with the engraved Arabic numerals and also a deep silver frame around it, it doesn't cast a shadow around the date complication. The white date wheel with black Arabic numerals is clearly legible, both the singles and the doubles. Now, there's something to note about the date wheel. This features a narrative date complication, and what that means is the date wheel is a narrative date wheel. It tells a story or narrative. On the 19th and the 27th of the month, it does not have Arabic numerals. It doesn't have 19 for 19, and it doesn't have 27 for 27th. On the 19th of the month, as you're looking at, it actually has an icon. This is the Yellow River Bridge, and this icon denotes the Yellow River Bridge, and it's symbolic to Peacock watches. Also, I'll bring it on to the 27th, just bear with me. I'm clicking through the days of the month, 25, 26, we're now on 27. You can see there is a blue dove, and the blue dove represents peace, which is an important aspect to Peacock watches. They were founded in 1957 in Dandong in China, and one of their core principles of the brand is peace. So They have the two characters on the narrative date complication or narrative date wheel, the Yalu River Bridge and also the Peace Dove on the 19th and the 27th. And then when you click over to the 28th, it returns to the Arabic numerals. So these are features of this Cosmic Arc which are unique to it, and they deserve credit for doing things which are important to the brand's heritage and also the brand's values. The Yalu River Bridge and also the Peace Dove are important to Peacock watches. So Pushable Crown works well, date complication works well. Pulling it out to the second click is the time setting position. Now, if you look at the curved airplane second hand, you can see it continues to run, even though I'm in the time setting position. So this is the one negative subjectively I want you to be mindful of with the Peacock Caliber PAX 6910 automatic, which is an in-house caliber. It does not hack. When you are in the time setting position, you can see the second hand continues to sweep around the dial at the characteristic 4 Hz sweep because it runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour. So you cannot set the time precisely to the seconds, but of course, due to the curvature of the airplane second hand, as per the original piece which it's based on, the Arc of Departure airplane second hand used on the Hong Kee watch from 1970s, you can't see the tip of the triangle aligning with the seconds on the chapter ring anyway, but you can't hack the movement and set the time precisely to the second. That's the point I want you to be mindful of. So we're now in the time setting position. The Dolphin hands rotate smoothly. They don't feel stiff. Minimal friction to the 32 jewel caliber, and it feels smooth both clockwise and anti-clockwise when you cycle through the 12 hours to set the time. Minimal resistance, the meshing of the gearing is good, feels refined, and I like it's an in-house caliber made by Peacock in Dandong in China. So, minimal backplay. When you rotate the coin edge crown clockwise and anti-clockwise, there's an almost immediate response to the Dolphin faceted hand. Minimal slack. I like the refinement of it. It has less slack than a Sellita SW200-1 and it has less slack than a Miyota 9015. There's an almost immediate response to the tip of the Dolphin faceted hand. Very minimal backplay in the gearing. Some backplay is necessary because if it didn't have some backplay in the meshing of the teeth on the gears, when you push back in the crown, when the winding stem enters the caliber, it would cause the Dolphin minute hand to jump out of position. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click and the movement restarts again. So the only real negative is the lack of hacking. The second hand continues to run. That really is the only negative. So hand winding works well, feels smooth. Quick set complication works well. Setting the time works well. Right, so I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, I'm pleased to report that this strap is just long enough to fit my 8-inch wrist. It will fit from a 6-inch wrist size up to a maximum 8-inch wrist size. I can just engage the end of the strap in the two keepers, the first fixed keeper and the second sliding keeper. So this is good. This Novo Nappa calf leather strap, which is genuine leather, will fit from a 6-inch up to a maximum 8-inch wrist size. So plenty of holes in it to allow for adjusting it. Now, although it does have an odd 19mm lug width, as I've detailed, I think they should have upgraded it to the contemporary 18 or 20. It does give the piece a vintage aesthetic. 19 was popular in the 1970s. Taper is good. It's not too aggressive and it's not too straight, and it is very soft and supple. It feels as supple as a Hirsch calf leather strap made in Austria, alternatively a Horween shell Cordovan strap. That's how supple the strap is. It's high grade calf leather. Nice matte finish to it, and I like the contrasting white stitching. So wrist presence is good. 38.5 gives enough wrist presence to satisfy for a 6 to 7-inch wrist and a 7 to 8-inch wrist respectively. Doesn't dominate the wrist. Curves around the wrist very well. It doesn't sit on top of the wrist like a thick slab of 316L grade stainless steel. Angular profile to the lugs. Curve around the wrist or angle around the wrist very well. Very flat case back. You can now see the benefit of it. Just look how flat the head of the piece sits on the wrist. We don't have an abhorrent gap as per a bubble back deep case back. This is the benefit. And it's very impressive for an automatic with a rotor to have such a flat case back. It's one of the thinnest case backs I've seen on an automatic. This is the kind of flat case back profile and snug fit I would expect with a quartz powered piece or a mechanical manual wind piece, not an automatic with a rotor. So it's very low profile at 9.6, even though it has a 2mm thick box top pack crystal, which gives the piece a vintage aesthetic rather than an acrylic crystal used in the 1970s. Very aesthetically pleasing. The 5 facets to the Dolphin hands are finished to Grand Seiko level. Also like the curvature of the airplane hand adds interest with a contrasting red tip, and I like the heat-treated blued treatment of the titanium curved second hand, the airplane second hand, because it changes colour from violet to blue depending on the light. AR coating works well. The gilt engraving of the Arabic numerals, which are a unique font to Peacock, are clearly legible. The gilt Arabic numerals contrast very well with the metallic finish to the vertical satin finishing of the green dial. Very aesthetically pleasing piece, very low profile piece. No gap beneath the tips of the angular lugs, and the strap is pulled down very tight to the wrist. Very well finished case. I like the angular profile to the lugs. Mirror polishing to the top of the lugs matches the bezel. Longitudinal brushed satin finishing. It has a beautiful luster, and also in between the lugs has a contrasting vertical satin finishing. So head of the piece is very well finished. The bezel is mirror polished to perfection. Satin finishing on the flanks is perfection. Angular lugs are mirror polished to perfection. Very good looking piece. I like it. 38.5. Now, the thing to note is the lack of heft. This is an incredibly lightweight piece. It is only 52 grams. It's one of the lightest automatic powered 38.5 pieces I have reviewed. It really is a very lightweight piece. The benefit of it being only 58 grams is it feels weightless on wrist. It feels invisible. Very comfortable on the Novo Nappa genuine leather strap. And it's calf leather, so it's very soft and supple, but the point is, this piece feels invisible on wrist. Therefore, when wearing it for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day, it's an incredibly low profile and incredibly lightweight piece. Only 9.7 thick and only 52 grams of heft. Now, you'll know from my previous reviews, anything below 13mm is the sweet spot, because that means a piece will easily slip underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. Needless to say, it's only 9.6, even though it has a 2mm box top hat crystal, this easily slips underneath a shirt cuff. 38.5 is a nice size. For a 6 to 7 and a 7 to 8 inch wrist, it does give wrist presence, but it doesn't dominate the wrist. It's not too large and it's not too thick. I like it. Now, the thing to note is it does have a compact lug to lug of only 45.4. You'll know from my previous reviews, 48mm is the sweet spot. That is the perfect lug to lug measurement for all wrist sizes, 6 to 7 and 7 to 8 inches respectively. At 45.5, it's well below the 48 sweet spot, but however, I'm not going to be critical of it because this is particularly suitable for collectors with a 6 to 7 inch wrist. You will really enjoy the 45.4 compact lug to lug because you can see there's no overhang on the tips of the lugs, and the case is short, but the lugs angle down aggressively to the wrist. We don't have a gap beneath them, nice curvature to the undercuts, to the flanks and the lugs. And the benefit of the short lug to lug is it's a short case, but it suits the compact 38.5 head of the piece. Proportions are good, and it does work well with the odd 19mm lug width, but I think it could be enhanced with an 18 or 20. But this is subjective. Purist Peacock collectors will appreciate the 1970s vintage lug width and strap width of 19 as per their 1970s pieces such as the Hong Kee watch, and as I've detailed, the curved airplane second hand is inspired by the Hong Kee watch from the 1970s, and that also had a 19 lug width. So let's do a Lume test and we'll see how the Lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, it has not disappointed. So this has surprisingly good performance because one has to appreciate it just has dots around the engraved Arabic numerals into the brass dial. And of course, the dots of C3 Super Lume Nova do not allow for a large area or a large plot to be applied, but nonetheless, they have applied dots with 5 to 6 layers around the circumference of the dial on the chapter ring, which is good. They've also applied C3 Super Lume Nova 5 to 6 layers on the dolphin hands, and again one has to appreciate dolphin hands, which have 5 facets, they take 100 cuts to produce. They're slender in profile and they don't allow for a large area or a large plot of C3 Super Lume Nova to be applied as per Mercedes hands or snowflake hands used on a dive piece, or even baton hands, which are longer and wider. Dolphin hands are very slender, as you can see, especially when they're faceted with 5 facets like this. They're very pointed. So they've done a good job with the available area or the available plots. They're just using dots around the chapter ring at the circumference of the dial, and the dolphin hands really, often daily wear pieces with dolphin hands do not have C3 Super Lume Nova or any Super Lume Nova because they're so slender. Contrasting red triangle tip to the airplane hand it glows orange in the dark, which is a surprise. Now, subjectively, one could say, well, it would have looked better if it was green, but of course in daylight it's red, and it's not possible to have the red triangle glowing green in the dark. So therefore they've made it glow orange, which makes a refreshing change from using the default options of C3 in green or BGW9 in blue. And does look aesthetically pleasing, the way the tip of the airplane titanium curved second hand glows orange, adds interest sweeping around at the characteristic 4Hz sweep. Camera's struggling to autofocus on it because of course we've just got dots around the chapter ring, around the Arabic numerals, and also the dolphin hands. You can see how slender they are. When they've got 5 facets, it's very difficult to apply a large area or large plot of the BGW of the C3 superluminova, as you can see. But good colour tone match. Point is, in daylight, the dots on the chapter ring of the C3 are white, and they match the white C3 used on the dolphin hands. The red triangle tip to the airplane second hand is red in daylight and glows orange in the dark, and it's performing well. And I think for a daily wear piece it is acceptable to have dots of lume. We don't have applied indices, for example, and the dolphin hands are acceptable because, as I've detailed, they don't allow for a large area or a large plot. 5 to 6 layers is good. Right, so let's discuss the movement use because it's my favourite aspect of the piece. So, as I've detailed, Peacock have a British brand heritage since 1957. They have been making watches and also movements, including tourbillon calibers, which is very impressive, since 1957. In the 1970s, they produced the Hong Kong watch, which was iconic due to it featuring the airplane second hand, which was curved as per this curved airplane second hand, but this one is made from titanium, which is heat treated to 550 degrees or 600 degrees Celsius, as I've detailed. So, to put this calibre into perspective, I regard it as equal quality to a Sellita calibre SW200-1 or alternatively a Miyota calibre 9015, which you'll be familiar with. That is the quality level we're talking about and we're looking at. So, on the bridge to the movement, we have milled stripes, which are like Côtes du Genève or Geneva stripes, and on the main plate, we have pelage finishing, so it's well decorated. Pelage finishing and milled stripes like Côtes du Genève. They've also milled stripes into the skeletonized gilt rotor, and the rotor is signed with the Peacock text logo. Very thin skeletonized gilt rotor, and the pelage finishing is high definition. The milled stripes, which are like Côtes du Genève, are also high definition. Also, the movement is very well decorated because they've engraved the bridge to the movement with a reference of the calibre, which is PAX 6910. They've also engraved it with 32 jewels, and they've infilled the engraving, which is high definition, with gilt. So this does give it a high-end feel. So, in terms of finishing, I regard it as equal quality finishing to a Miyota 9015, and also equal finishing to an Elaboré grade of SW200-1. The milled stripes and the pelage finishing are definitely that level of finishing. The milled stripes on the rotor, which is gilt, are also that level of finishing. It's technically excellent. So, has 32 joules, runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 4 Hz, has hand winding. The negative is it does not hack. So, that's the one negative subjectively I want you to be mindful of. It's not possible to set the time precisely to the second because it does not hack. That's something to note. It's regulated in 5 positions to chronometer accuracy. So chronometer accuracy is -4 to +6. It's very good to see Peacock regulating their own in-house calibers in 5 positions. Chronometer accuracy is excellent. I can confirm this one is running consistently at +1 second per day when it's fully wound to its maximum 38-hour power reserve. +1 is well within the stated accuracy of -4 to +6, which is chronometer accuracy. Regulating it in 5 positions is excellent. So, accurate movement, reliable, well proven. No negatives to it whatsoever other than the lack of hacking. That really is the only negative. What I like about it is how thin it is. In terms of how thin it is, it's similar to a Miyota 9039 or 9015. It's much thinner than a Seiko NH35A and it's thinner than an SW200-1. So, benefits of the PAX 6910 automatic is being thin is this piece is only 9.6 millimeters, even though it uses a 2 millimeter thick box top hat double dome sapphire crystal, which adds 2 millimeters of thickness. 9.6 is very impressive, bearing in mind it uses an exhibition caseback, which again adds some thickness. It's not as thin as a solid stainless steel caseback, which can be made thinner, because the sapphire crystal glazing needs to provide adequate clearance between the underside of the sapphire crystal and the rotor to prevent the rotor fouling it. But it's still very flat and low profile. It runs very close with minimal clearance to the rotor, does a good job of displaying it. I like the large diameter of the stainless steel portion, the stainless steel glazing, and the decoration of the calibre is fantastic. I like the milled stripes, I like the high definition engraving, which is infilled with gilt. Skeletonized rotor is very well finished, and also I like the main plate has pelage finishing. It's a very well decorated, very aesthetically pleasing calibre. Now, above all else, I want to give credit to Peacock because unlike many other low-tier, mid-tier Chinese brands, they're not buying in movements. For example, to put this into perspective, San Martin, they are buying in movements from TMI in Malaysia, which is Seiko Malaysia, such as the NH35A. Peacock are producing their own calibers in-house in Dandong in China, and they have been doing that since 1957. They are capable of producing their own calibers in-house. They do not buy movements in from other manufacturers. And they are even capable of making tourbillon calibers, which is very impressive. So this PAX 6910 is a high grade of automatic caliber, and I like it. I think it's well finished. Build quality, quality control, materials and finishing are excellent. The only negative is the lack of hacking, but in terms of how it feels smooth to manually wind. Quick set complication works well, setting the time works well, and I like it runs at 4 Hz because the second hand doesn't stutter or judder as per a 3 Hz sweep running at 21,600 vibrations per hour, such as an NH35A. This has a smooth sweep, rather like the SW200-1 or the 9015, because it runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour, and I like this smooth sweep of the contrasting triangle red tip airplane secondhand, which, as I've detailed, is inspired by the original airplane secondhand used on the Hong Kui watch from 1970s. Excellent. So, excellent quality movement, and I'm pleased that it's in-house versus being a modified caliber or bought in from another movement manufacturer. So last I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So mid-tier piece, to remind you, mid-tier is 500 to 5,000 euro price point. This is 1,899 US dollars, which is 1,618 euro respectively. I'm going to declare it excellent quality. I'm going to declare the value as poor. The reason why I say the value is poor, I appreciate that this has brand heritage since 1957. That adds value. I appreciate that the quality control of this piece is excellent. There are no QC issues whatsoever. Specification is strong. And of course, I appreciate it's made from 904L stainless steel versus the less expensive 316L grade stainless steel, and it does have an in-house caliber. All of these aspects add value to the piece, but I think it needs to be below 1,500 euro in order to be good quality or excellent quality at the 1,500 euro price point. Quality is excellent, quality control is excellent. I do respect the brand heritage from 1957. I do respect the quality. For example, the hands take 100 cuts to make the 5 facets to the dolphin hands. They are Grand Seiko level finished. I also appreciate the airplane hand isn't made from brass, it's made from titanium, and it is technically difficult to blue heat treat titanium at 550 to 600 degrees. It's a lot easier to heat treat blued stainless steel hands at 300 degrees, as I've detailed. So I do appreciate these technical aspects to the piece. The engraving is high definition, and they deserve credit for coming up with their original Arabic numeral font versus using the default option of Breguet numerals. So all of these features add value to it, but I still think 1,618 is too high, therefore the value is poor. Quality excellent, value is poor, but nonetheless I'm going to recommend it to you for consideration because it is a limited edition of only 80 pieces, which makes it highly collectible for purist Peacock collectors. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Peacock Cosmic Arc Verdant Orbit limited edition. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.